Hello, I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. This is an episode in a series about best job choices for ADHD uh, people. I got started really thinking about this a long time ago when my youngest was approaching adolescence, and I'm thinking, what in the heck is this kid going to be able to do and make a living? He can't pay attention. He can't tolerate medications. He keeps thinking he's smarter than everybody in the room, which a lot of times he is, but that's not the best way to stay employed. And so I started looking in this whole area, and we basically uh, hammered it out to the notion that it has to be a job that's got either high control or high stimulation or just strong intrinsic interest for your young man or lady. Uh, it doesn't have to be all three, but it's better if it is. It's better, well, if you've got at least one area that's very strong. Like I know, surprisingly, for a lot of people, the military is not a bad fit for ADHDers because they have a lot of supervision and they have all the He-Man warrior kind of thing, uh, and there's not much tolerance for errors. So that works. And one of the ones that surprised me a lot was uh, accountants. There are a lot of people with ADHD that are accountants, and I was like, you sit around and you play with numbers all day. But it's got the characteristics of this area that we're talking about today, which is very structured, detailed sort of tasks where there's both a need to do a fair amount of work, but there's also the requirement for a reasonable amount of accuracy. If your accountant blows your taxes, you're going to not keep him employed for very long. And if he's doing the books for a big company, he's not going to last very long if he keeps making serious mistakes that cost the company money. They have a very low tolerance for that, as we've all seen, especially recently. He's I'm on one of my first ADHDers with a problem. Well, who was an accountant was basically that he was not getting along well with his wife because he was being sort of well, he was not. He was very into being an accountant, and apparently had trouble having a little fun and being spontaneous and all that sort of thing. Okay, there is also an overlap with ADHD and autism, and that may have been kind of what was going on here. It sort of felt like it, but anyway, the big deal is that the accuracy is the big deal. And you're given a lot of information usually, and you have to make sense of it, and you have to do it reasonably rapidly. And so that intensity seems to be what keeps people saying, "Oh yeah, I've got ADHD and I'm an accountant, and it works for me." Uh, I don't know. It wouldn't work for me, but I always say I'm not ADHD. I'm just impatient. I don't know if that's a better excuse or not, but so the kind of people we get in this category are accountants, as I've already mentioned, auditors, people who are in charge of compliance. Oh, you have to comply with this regulation or that rule or that law, those kind of things. And as we're getting more and more rules and regulations, there are more and more people who are in charge of compliance. Uh, Sometimes to the point I think it's a little ridiculous and definitely very inefficient, and I'm not sure it does the job, but that's not my problem. Other ones that are also in this category are data processors. And I don't know how that's, used to be if you did anything with computers, you were guaranteed employment for life. Now we have AI, and I'm not so sure what that means for people who play with computers all day long. It seems like short-sightedly, I think companies are not taking on newbies, new people in the whole computer business, or information processing, or whatever the heck they're calling it. I can never keep track of the name. I've got a couple of kids who've got degrees in it, and they're different degrees, and they both do the same thing. So, yeah. Uh, but the the big deal now is that they're not hiring newbies, new people, young people, that they can groom so that they're the middle level managers, in 5 years or so. And I think that's going to bite them. I think they're going to have problems because of just what I said, that they're not going to have a middle level management in 5 years or so. If they keep not hiring, because, oh, I've got AI that can do all that routine stuff. And I'm not sure, I mean, that's not the best place for an ADHD either, but you have to have a certain amount of attention, and you have to have a certain amount of intensity, and you will keep your ADHD pretty happy, and you probably get yourself a pretty good employee. So ADHD and employment, it's tricky because well, we know school is a problem, and we know that the right teacher can make a tremendous difference. We know that the right school program can make a tremendous difference. We know that uh, some of the programs that was a Legacy of the Mind, I think it was called, or something, problem solving things. Oh man, ADHDers just light up when you do that for them. Oh, kind of the same thing though in a work environment. There are lots of things about work environments that you have to be careful of. ADHDers don't do well with injustice. They're kind of empathic, justice-loving sort of people, and they don't do well if something's not fair. And they also have a little bit of trouble if things are not efficient. If things don't run very smoothly, they'll figure out how to solve it, how to fix it. But if they can't, they're in a situation where they can't fix it because the boss is a my way or the highway kind of guy, that'll be a problem. So it's not just the characteristics of the job, it's the situation that the job is in as far as the company is concerned. There are many companies that do really well with ADHD people. A lot of times they have people who already work there that are ADHD, or sometimes the boss is even has ADHD. Matter of fact, a fair amount of the time. But the deal with having a good environment is that you can make accommodations, you can make adjustments. I mean, technically, you can do it anyway. We have Section 504 of the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, covers accommodations in the work setting for ADHDers. But I'm here to tell you, there are, as you have probably seen with the current political situation, there are ways around the rules that you probably never thought of. But I've had several patients who came in. We got them evaluated. They got treatment. They're doing better. They're doing well, but they're still this one co-employee in the next cubicle who insists on listening to the radio all day long, which absolutely drives this particular ADHD guy nuts. Uh, but the company he worked for could have been sued. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But it's just lawsuits. If you're not um, somebody who's just rolling with money, it's taking on the responsibility, the financial responsibility of a lawsuit is not something that most of us would willingly get out of our environment. That's why, I mean, when I was in full-time private practice, I saw tons of people who were suing, for injuries, usually like car accidents and that sort of stuff. The only people who got rich off of suing for liability in a car accident were the lawyers. The one for the planning the lawsuit and the other defending the lawsuit. They both did really well, and the patient, the person who brought the lawsuit, didn't make hardly anything, and had a lot of aggravation. Going to court is never fun. I've done it a number of times. I never enjoyed it. It didn't bother me a whole lot, but it's just, I got to drive down. Courthouses are always downtown. So I got to drive downtown. I got to find a place to park. I got to watch out for when rush hour is. I got to, got to hope my car doesn't get broken into. Got to remember not to leave anything exposed in the seat. But remember, I can't take everything I usually carry with me into the courtroom. And I don't mean I'm packed or strapped, I guess is the expression. I just mean that sometimes they'll let your phone in, sometimes they won't. Sometimes I've forgotten what all the other, but it's all kinds of things you don't think about. And I don't really just want to leave it. You can't just leave it on the bench out in the hallway. Nothing will be there when you come back. So anyway, so there's all those other things that financially rewarding. I mean, unless you get millions and millions, in that case, fine, whatever. But just if you're trying to nickel dime, it's not gonna be worth the effort. But the same thing, even more so, in something vague like failure to comply with an ADA request. Those are, I mean, it's very puffy, they're not hard facts that you can, oh, look at that poor man's leg, or look, he's in a wheelchair, or look, she can't use her right arm, or, you've got solid stuff that you can see. But when it's, you're saying the music is distracting you, and that's what you're suing about, I just, you won't do real well. It's all. It's hard to prove it, hard to make a strong case, even though it should be pretty easy. It should be just, consenting adults. Maybe we used to have that concept. I don't think we do anymore. But yeah, it used to be. You could, go to somebody, and a lot of times when I always told my patients for when I'm in my office, clients for when I'm coaching, that sort of thing. But when I would tell my patients that, check out your environment, ask some questions, see if somebody who's already been diagnosed with ADHD, have they asked for accommodations? How did that work? That sort of thing. Or a lot of times you can tell the environment by just the way people talk. I know I had a couple of patients who were kind of hesitant, but they asked for accommodations, and they found out that the boss also had ADHD, so it was no problem getting accommodations. That's one of the side effects of this whole ADHD in employment settings. It's the environment of the job. Pretty much has to be one of these jobs that I've been talking about. One with a certain amount of intensity, a certain amount of uh, intrinsic value to your ADHD, and high control. That's well, I think the need for high control is why so many ADHDers become entrepreneurs, because basically you're running your own business, uh, and you get to make all the calls. It's helpful if you have somebody who's very compulsive and detail oriented working with you or for you, but it is a uh, kind of an ideal setting if you get it right, but it's tricky and there's a high risk, and uh, you can spend yourself into a lot of financial problems if you don't have all your bases covered in the internet world. You have to have something that people really want, that's really solves a problem they have, and so on. That's the big deal, and that's what a lot of people. Oh, I just want to make people happy. Well, yeah, but what do you do? And a lot of people have very vague sort of ideas about what people will want to listen to, like on a podcast or that sort of thing. So you got to pick your spots, and you got to really pay attention to the feedback you get, and don't let your creativity get out of control. You still got to think about SEO, which means the search engines can find your stuff because you use strong what they call keywords. So that's the way it goes on the internet world. And that's why entrepreneurship is so uh, filled with ADHD people. I mean, the research is like, well, I've seen a high of about 75% and a low around 45%. So it's still a lot of folks for one type of mind, but it's perfect. You get to talk, you get to deliver messages, you get to be creative. Uh, there's as much intensity as you want to have. Yeah. There's one guy in the podcast world who's been doing a show every day for like 13 years or something. And But he's got it set up. He's an ex-military guy, and you can tell he does pretty much the same thing every show, and he does it in roughly the same order. And it doesn't get old because the content is always new, but it certainly reduces the stress on him. I mean, it's a mostly interview show. Matter of fact, it's a totally interview show. But he's been doing it for a long time, in spite of the fact that people told him, "There's no way you can do this. It's too much." Well, he likes it. And I don't know that he's got any diagnoses, but I have suspicions, and that's okay. I apparently like ADHD people. I like the creativity and the intensity and the energy and all that other stuff. And a lot of businesses will, in the right place. There's one guy, oh God, his name, Penn is his first name. He and his wife just wrote a book about a year ago or so. And he's got a pretty bad case of ADHD. He ends up destroying socks because he just walks outside, forgets he doesn't have shoes on or something. I don't know. He's not paying attention to whether he does. So he's walking around in the mud and the stuff with his socks on. Anyway, but he has been a music director, I think it is, for I think it's an advertising agency, okay? But he's one of these guys who can, he's in there talking, doing not an interview, doing a meeting with a potential client, and they're telling him stuff, and he's already got a plan for how the music and the video should go for their company, and his brain works that way. He had a horrible time in school and all that stuff, but he made it through, and Now he's doing quite nicely, thank you. Plus, he and his wife have written a successful book, which is selling like top hotcakes, and he's on the interview circuit a bit. And um, but he had a special area, a special niche. He found a position in that niche, and it's working out beautifully. Same thing with your child. Be aware of them. That's why you want to look at what their interests are, what their hobbies are, what they do for fun. Because it's very likely that that's going to be more important to their adjustment later on in life and employment history than what they learn in school for a large portion of them. And that's a very important lesson to hold on to. School was designed to make workers, and it does a marvelous job of making workers. But that doesn't really make you creative. It doesn't make you think. It certainly doesn't make you think outside the box. And that's what ADHDers are especially good at. Okay, that's me for today. Again, I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras. My website is terrygingrasphd.com. Give it a look, and you can sign up for, you can sign up for my newsletter. You can also get scheduled for a interview and a discovery interview, and so we can see if we can work together, and if what you've got is something we can work with. Okay, we will catch you next time, and let's keep going, make the world safe for ADHD, get those schools redesigned. Let's go.